Well, I wanted to wish everybody a very happy new year. Here we are in 2023, and I'm back at it. As you can see, we got past the huge storm that we had a couple of weeks ago, where we got down here to minus 25, and it was not including wind chill. So it was pretty cold storm, pretty nasty. We had a lot of snow, but luckily we've had a little bit of time here since the holidays, where everything is starting to melt and looking pretty good. I figured I'd take some time, kind of recap 2022. We had a pretty awesome year. A lot of setbacks, I'll be really frank about it. But overall, we got a lot done last year. Managed to finish the shop and get that sited and done. On the shop forefront, what's left to do in the shop is I still have to get all of the electrical into the shop, and also sheetrock and insulation. Those three things are going to wait. The electrical I may do here in 2023, but not too positive on whether I'm going to do that or not. However, it's on the list of things to do. But the shop was completed last year, and then we moved on starting in May on the house, which was a huge endeavor. We went into the year with some pretty harsh weather, so we couldn't pour our foundation until May, but we got that started and got that done. And all together, we got this house all the way to dry-in, except for as you can tell, the window here and the two sliders, which are something that are a hot project for the beginning of this year, or this month of January. Hopefully that's going to happen before we get some more snow in. The problem with everything behind me is that it looks white and nice, but it's all frozen solid and icy. The ground is also frozen. That's one of the 22 items we had on the list, was to get the electrical in from the pole, which is on this end of the property, all the way to the house, and get the power vault in and meters. That did not happen. We got winter in about 2 weeks earlier than normal. Usually we get our first snow somewhere around October, and this year it decided to come in 2 weeks earlier, and once that happens and the ground freezes, it's almost impossible to dig. So kind of abandoned that project. We'll get the main power in from the pole to the house this spring. As soon as the ground thaws and I can start digging, I'll get a machine out. My plan there this year with that is to dig the electrical trench, and also to dig all of the trenching and do all of the things I need to do for the septic system, which will also be a spring or summer project. Hopefully we've got some work there to do, but that is also priority. And the reason why I'm looking at those two things is that in order to do that, I need to get an excavator out here, and I'd rather just rent it for an entire month and get that completed all in one dig, and that way I can lay the pipe for the electrical and start on the septic pipe. But I want to get all the groundwork done, so that's an early spring project. And of course, we still have quite a bit to do as far as this year goes. I'm going to finish off this month in January. I'm going to get all of the plumbing done, as far as the exit plumbing to the septic. All of the drainage and vents will be done here in the next week or two, and then we'll start on the supply side of things. Working with a company out of Idaho to try and get a system design from the septic, or not the septic, from the cistern to the house supply is where I've got some questions. The summer we'll put in the well pump and get that done, as well as the hydrants to supply our garden, which will be back on this over in here. And we'll get all of that completed. However, on the supply side of things, that is still a tricky point. I have to figure out how to get, or if I need a booster pump from the cistern to the house. I'm not quite sure how to engineer that piece of it, because I'm going to either need a booster pump or something to in between the pressure tank and the actual supply lines in the house. So there'll be a well booster pump, which will then feed the pressure tank, and then that pressure tank will then feed out to the cold water lines and to the losing my mind here, to the hot water heater, which will supply all the hot water lines for the house. We still have to, after all that's in and checked, I'm going to have to do testing on the septic system and all the drainage lines. We'll have to do a water test or air pressure test, probably a water test, get that done, and then also a pressure test on the supply lines that we're going to try and do here the first part of the year, so we can, check plumbing off all the way off the list. Also early on this year, one of the goals is to get all of the electrical in the house done. We've got everything mapped out as far as the rooms go. That should be pretty easy to figure out, and we've got that done. It's the main part of this house where the double vaulted ceilings are that present a little bit of a problem for us, and trying to figure out where exactly the light fixtures are going to go. And hopefully I've got some help with that. I've got my friend Sean, who is a licensed electrician, that is going to kind of oversee my work and double check it to make sure we meet code before we get an inspection. But I've got that help to help kind of figure out how we're going to do the light alignment in the main room of this house. That should be pretty interesting project all the way around, but that's coming up. But the goal is, by the time we hit April, is to have all of the plumbing completed, to have all of the electrical installed in the house, and to have that inspected. That's my goal. Hopefully we'll get there, because once we get to that stage of things, then we can really start working on other facets of the interior, such as the insulation and then drywall. When we get to that stage, that'll be probably later on in the summer months or a year, but we'll see what happens here. May, we're supposed to, end of February, May, we're supposed to get in the last 3 windows for right here, for the upper windows. So in between there and June, the goal is to start also siding this house, get that done. Hopefully I'll have all my wall penetrations done, and we'll get that completed. And then I can move on to actually siding the house and doing that. Because my plan here is that I need to rent some kind of like man lift in order to do the gable ends and the siding, but I also need that lift to get the windows in, because they're too high for ladders and they're too heavy to try and do from a ladder. So I want to have a lift where I can get 2 people in there and put those windows in. Still haven't had an update on when those are actually going to arrive, but the 20-week estimate would have put us end of February, May to do that. Overall, my goal this year is to try and get this house into a condition where we can actually move in by the end of the year. That is a long shot. We'll see. I'm not going to rush things. I'm going to take my time and see what we can get done. But we've still got a long list of things to go. The good part is the house is dried in, except for these windows, and we are ready to rock and roll and get started on our projects for 2023. Should be an adventurous year, and it should be exciting all the way around. We'll have to wait and see what comes, but we've got some plans on what we're going to get going, and we'll see what we do there. Some of the setbacks that we had in 2022 really were things that some of we anticipated, some of it we really had no idea about. One was that caught us off guard was early in the year in 2022, WBC, who I turned the plans in January, didn't bother to tell me until April that they had slipped through the cracks and didn't do my truss order, and that was going to take us into December to get the trusses for this house, and that was a major problem. The second major problem that occurred, which is problems 2 and 3, is that they ordered the windows. Those were delivered. Of course, the windows were damaged, and the 2 sliders were damaged and had to be looked at and repaired, and that took quite a few months to get that coordinated and done. The second or third part of that and of the windows is that they mismeasured when they ordered the windows for the upper 3 windows here in the bay window area. Those were misordered and were 3 inches too short and 3 inches too long. So those were no good, and had to order those, and that was a 20-week lead time, which we are still waiting on. Another big issue that we had, which was a major strain overall, was the trusses themselves. Once they were actually ordered, That cost us to go with a different company. That cost us an additional $3,000 to have that done, which was not something we had budgeted for or anticipated. And then later on, that would be the case. Once they were delivered, it was pretty obvious that that was not something that Colleen and I could do on our own. We had to recruit help. And in the busy construction season, getting that help was a little tough to find, but we managed to do that. That was issue number 4, was that once we got here, the contractor that we hired was certainly not prepared for the day of the install. They should have been out here a day or two before to make sure that all their stuff was set up and ready to go, and they did not have any of that done. So they were rushing the day of. We lost about 3 hours of very expensive crane time at $145 an hour. That crane sat here for 3 hours while the contractor was getting ready to do that. And then on the truss install itself, one of the main support girder trusses in the house was reversed. That is a potential problem. We still have to fix that going on later on, but it can be fixed. It's just kind of a pain that those were specifically set up to handle the drywall, and now I've got to re-engineer on how I'm gonna do that. Along with the truss install, which was a major problem, it was the contractor had never really worked with a sophisticated set of trusses like this, and so the setup for that and the layout was done incorrectly. And so the center section of this house couldn't be done. We ended up having to bring back a second crane the next day, again at $145 an hour. Another day was set back, but we finally got that completed. That was a very expensive piece, but also understanding the complexity of the roof system in this house. It didn't surprise me that it took us a little bit longer than we anticipated, but certainly had some setbacks there. And of course, there's a video that I did with the pros and cons of contractors. I'll link it at the end of this video, so that if you're interested in seeing what those were, you can go ahead and do that. Then some of our other issues that we had to come across and deal with was, of course, the windows. Once they were here and they're fixed, it's a matter of manpower. That's why we still don't have the main bay window here or the 2 sliders in. Just the 3 people, myself and 2 other friends, the windows were too much for us to handle, so we got to find a solution for that piece of it. But overall, the process for the year, aside from those setbacks and winter coming in early and setting off some of our other plans, we managed to hit all of our objectives for 2022, which is a huge accomplishment, and I'm pretty happy with that. Well, and there you have it, kind of a wrap up of what 2022 was, and then now what we've got going into 2023. We have a lot to do this year, and so I'm looking forward to getting a lot more on this house completed and having you come along for the journey on this. Our main goal here is to be at the end of this is to be debt free. Like I said, the property itself is paid for. All of the building materials as we're going are paid for, and so we don't owe anything as we're building, which was one of the main goals from the very beginning, and we're managing to keep up with that goal. Even with some of the setbacks in this, we continue to look for savings and do different things to try and do that. And then, of course, doing all the work myself saves us quite a bit of money and time. Well, I shouldn't say time, because it does take me a little bit longer to get things completed. Anyway, I hope that look at what we're going to be doing this year helps kind of plan what we're going to do, and we look forward to having you follow along. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate all the comments and likes and shares. So keep it up, and let's continue to grow the channel.